It's time to get the inside info on BYU with Cougar insider Mitch Harper of KSLSports.com on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
We continue to discuss college football. No days off. It's still college football season. We're going to get to Mitch Harper here. It is The Cut at 5 o'clock. It's brought to you by G2G Bars. With all natural ingredients, no preservatives, and plenty of protein, G2G Bars are perfect for anyone who needs a tasty and nutritious boost. Let's get to the latest on the BYU Cougars right now on The Cut.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This segment also brought to you by our friends at Trajan Wealth. Give them a call today, your local financial fiduciary, 801-899-7600, or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. If you want the best BYU football coverage, Mitch Harper's your guy. You can read all of his stuff on KSLSports.com. You hear him on Cougar Sports Saturday on KSL News Radio every Saturday. And you hear him right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You're everywhere, Mitch. And right now you're back home from the Alamo Bowl. Welcome to the show.
Hey, JJ Sly. Happy to be on with you. And Happy New Year. Yeah, just got done here at the Marriott Center. BYU basketball took down Arizona State. And then football. And it was an interesting scene here at the basketball game. Keanu Tanavasa, he got a standing ovation from the Marriott Center crowd. He was shown on the big screen, and BYU fans gave him a standing O. He was in a BYU polo, and it appeared to be, I believe, it was with his new fiancée, who he proposed to yesterday as well. So Keanu Tanavasa is the toast of the town here in Provo these days.
Oh, I bet he is. Anytime you can get a player to come from your rival down to join you, you're going to be excited. And Sly said his piece just momentarily. You'll want to go back and hear that, Mitch. But let's get the BYU side of things. Why is Keanu Tanavasa so celebrated right now in Provo? Why is this such a big deal for the BYU football team?
Well, they had a massive need at defensive tackle. It was a significant need. And, Keanu Tanavasa just steps in, and he's the guy, starter right away, and he's going to be the face of BYU's defensive line, because outside of him, there's no one that you kind of project on that defensive line next year that you say every single week he's going to perform. You don't have that, consistent mainstay like Tyler Batty or John Nelson or Blake Mangleson next year. There's talent next season, and even some of the young guys on the D-line, they could end up being better than the ones that were on the field this year, but they just haven't proven anything yet. So Keanu Tanavasa gives them a leader. He knows the defense. Because there's so much crossover between what Jay Hill runs with his defense and what Utah does defensively. So it should be a seamless transition, and it should work out quite well for BYU.
Yeah, it's awesome. As I said, I told JJ, I was like, BYU won this deal.
Yeah.
One instant playmaker at the D-line position. And you've had great defense all year. You're nationally recognized as being a great defense now. And you get a guy who is very familiar with your system to come and plug and play and be awesome. And so I know BYU's doing a great job this offseason at getting guys and hopefully retain guys. What is on the front of retaining a lot of the talent from last year?
Yeah, the retention so far has been a positive development. BYU still got this is the third day out of the 5-day kind of grace period that, BYU players have to enter the portal. They still have 5 additional days after the bowl game. So by the end of this week, it'll officially close for BYU players. But they've done a good job, in retaining those guys. And, you look at that linebacker unit next year. I kind of, I was putting together some of my, way too early outlooks that I'll have coming up on KSLSports.com. But I think if they keep Isaiah Glasker, Jack Kelly, Harrison Taggart, and then you got some of that depth with Che Bryant Strother, who's a former UCLA transfer. Ace Kafusi still there. Sialia Sarah had a really good game in the Alamo Bowl. I think it's the best linebacker unit since the days of Kyle Van Noy. And when they had Alani Fua, a couple of NFL guys, and Spencer Hadley was an NFL guy, I think it's the best linebacker unit since then, maybe the best linebacker unit in the Kalani Sitake era next year. So those guys are going to be, I think, one of the standout groups of BYU's team. And then, they pretty much kept everyone that they are counting on next season. The biggest loss to the portal was Crew Wakely, a starting safety, and I think that is a big loss. But you saw Raider DeMooney. He had a sack in the Alamo Bowl, and he's someone they really like at the back end of that defense, same with Falatau Satuala. So BYU feels like, they've had some losses, but the gains in the portal have far outweighed maybe the losses that they've had in the portal.
So crazy. There's a lot of local names on this roster.
Yeah, there is.
You gotta love it. One, Isaiah Glasgow, I love that kid, man. Watching him, he's great. He's a local product.
Covered him when he was at Bingham High School, catching passes.
Yeah, big body.
he's transformed his body tremendously.
Yeah, and just hearing it. I mean, we got Ephraim Asiatas on the roster as well. A lot of pedigree throughout the university. Throughout the state of Utah.
Yeah.
On this Falatau Satuala, we covered a lot of his games. He's a talent. He's going to be great. And so you got Raider DeMooney, guys with Utah ties that are playmakers, and staying in Utah is great.
Yeah, you got to give Jay Hill some credit.
It is, and I think another name to keep an eye on for next year for BYU that could be maybe the running mate with Tanavasa in the interior is Viliami Puha. So he's played at defensive end this year. Would not be surprised if we see him kind of take a similar move like Blake Mangleson did, where he slides in to the interior, because the edge rushers that they have, noted Ephraim Asiata, I think he's going to be someone that has to take a big leap forward next year. They've got Tausili Akana, former Skyridge High product, comes in from Texas. He's the edge rusher that I think Jay Hill has been kind of coveting, but it's still projection-based, and he hasn't done much yet at the college level, but they love the athleticism and the tools they've got there with Akana. So I think there's a lot of excitement there with that defensive line, and rounding out that group, pair with Tanavasa will be a real interesting storyline, and then you got in the backdrop too the competition to always earn that 105-man spots, because that doesn't have to be trimmed down until I believe July.
Oh, so you can go through spring with it?
I believe so.
Nice.
I have to double check on that, but it creates a really competitive environment coming up in spring ball.
That's interesting. Well, the Cougars have a lot of momentum right now. The Alamo Bowl win certainly helped with that. And it's interesting, Mitch, because if BYU does not perform well in the Alamo Bowl and they lose that game, they go into the offseason with 3 losses in their last 4 games, and you're feeling a little bit different about things. Instead, 8 million people watch BYU kick Colorado's butt on national TV. Could it have gone any better for BYU?
It couldn't have. It was, it wasn't ideal to face a Big 12 team, because even Jay Hill said they would have probably liked to have faced another conference. But really, Colorado not having faced the Buffs in 36 years, and then you got Coach Prime and having it be Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders, it was the perfect storm for BYU, and they delivered. They capitalized. And how many times, JJ, have we seen over the years, BYU teams go into big stages and they just lay an egg?
Oh, yeah.
They've done that so many times, and they capitalize, and they look like the best version of themselves. So I think it was one of the most complete performances I've witnessed from a Kalani Sitake team in his 9 years at BYU. And, even after the days since that game on Saturday, kind of just, trying to not be, speak hyperbole, but really I think that was one of the best complete performances of Kalani's tenure, and just that stage. And, let's see how BYU can kind of capitalize going forward. And it's, it's interesting on the field at the Alamo Dome. A lot of players were saying, back to work next week, because next Tuesday they'll get winter conditioning started. And it feels like they really want to almost finish the job. They feel like they're still unfinished business by not getting to the Big 12 championship game. So we'll see if they can do that. Easier said than done, because we know in this league it's so topsy-turvy and that margin is very thin between, 10 wins in the regular season and 5 wins, like a team like Kansas. And you saw that losing to that team. So it can flip on you in a hurry. But, these additions, I think, in the portal paired with the returning players that we've talked about, it feels like it gives them some belief that they could, maybe do something greater next year, potentially, if they stay healthy too, because that was a big thing for BYU as well.
How was that experience, just for BYU at all, in total? Like, I went to the Colorado-Utah game this year in Colorado, and the media presence, we've seen it, the last couple of years with Dion and all of this stuff, and let alone a bowl week. right, of media attention, and in Texas where Dion reigns. What was that experience for BYU? I mean, if you listen to the announcers, they said there were more Colorado Buffs fans than there were BYU, but I heard BYU fans like crazy on the TV. So what was that whole week and that whole experience for the university itself, and what can they take from that going in the future?
Yeah, it was a fun experience, and I think to the point of the crowd, it was a pro Colorado crowd. I mean, BYU had that south end zone pretty filled up with blue, but outside of that, I mean, it was San Antonio, or it was Colorado, and a lot of the San Antonio natives, locals, I think, showed up for the Buffs because they just kind of have that superstar presence. It was interesting when at pregame, I compare it to like when the Lakers show up to the Delta Center and like Laker fans will gather around the tunnel and they want to see LeBron, or back in the day they want to see Kobe, and it's like way early before tip off, and they're there, just hordes of them. That was how it was at the tunnel at the Alamo Dome. I've never seen anything like that for college football. And you got 2 Chainz rolling out. I'm like, holy cow! Like the other media members are going, who's 2 Chainz? I'm like, this is crazy. This is happening right now. And then you got Terrell Owens coming out. It was like a Hollywood event, and you saw the cameras, and it was pretty cool. And I think Coach Prime is an awesome thing for college football and for the Big 12 too, because I think his style is I like when people look at this sport differently and they don't just think of it from a very kind of, I mean, I love the tradition and the pageantry of college football, but I just love how he's approaching it from a far different lens. And I thought he was very, complimentary of BYU in the post game, and even his son on their YouTube video they uploaded on their well-off media channel, they classified it as Colorado gets embarrassed by BYU. They're just calling it what it is, and they got to build off it. So, and I think for BYU, though, throughout the week, they got a little bit tired of, Colorado getting all the attention, and that bothered them. Even Kalani in the pep rallies, like, hey, we got players too, and we're ready to unleash them. And, Kalani, of course, did it in a very Kalani way where it seems complimentary, just kind, but at the same time, like internally, that bothered that team, and they wanted to go out and make a statement. And
nicest competitor I know.
That's right. And they capitalized, and what a win for them. And I think it also adds a little bit of, higher stakes now when BYU goes to Boulder, and Colorado will have revenge on their mind. And I think it just kind of adds to the drama and the storylines a little bit, because that was a matchup, a couple weeks ago, no one, thought anything of. Now it's going to have a little more juice behind it next year when they line up in Big 12 play.
Before we move into 2025 and look ahead to the Cougars in 2025, I have one more final BYU football question for 2024 for you, Mitch. 11 win seasons for the 13th time. They do it in the Big 12. They absolutely crush a star-studded Colorado team on as big a stage with 8 million people watching. Where does this BYU team rank all time in BYU football history?
It's a great question. I've thought a lot about this the last couple days, and it's definitely top 10. And I think there's a conversation to be had, maybe top 5, but I still have them outside the top 5. Yeah. I got them around 6. 6 is where I've got them. I look at the 1996, 1984 teams. Those are the top 2. You could have 1983 be in that conversation for 1, because they had 2 Hall of Famers in Steve Young and Gordon Hudson. I think the 2009 team was really good. Yeah. You've also got 1979 with Mark Wilson, where they went undefeated in the regular season, but they lost the bowl game to Indiana with Lee Corso. And then also like 2006, 2007. But I think that this team's around 5 or 6 is where I would have them, is somewhere in that range. And it's just a really good team. And, I don't think there's the top end opponent that they took down. I think SMU was a huge win. Obviously SMU went to the playoff, but you don't have some like number 6 Wisconsin, number 1 Miami, like 1990 had. And that was a really good team too, that I kind of put in the top 10 of BYU teams. But you just had, week after week, tough opponents where it was a, 2-point Vegas spread, or BYU goes into UCF as an underdog, but yet they just always performed, and they always delivered outside of that Kansas game in the first half against ASU. So, BYU, this was a really good football team. And I think what was noteworthy too about this group is that, they dug into their depths and they had answers from, the second and third units. I think with this team, they're not as maybe have as much star power at the top end. Their first 22 guys, I don't know, are as loaded as some of the teams like 84 and 96. I think they got a little bit more star power and at the top end, but I think the second and third and fourth units is where it really shines bright. And you're seeing the difference of what's being built with Kalani and Jay Hill and Aaron Roderick going into the Big 12. And because you had to turn to some guys. I mean, you see like a Bruce Mitchell step into action as a center, and he hadn't played in 5 years at a football game since his days in South Summit after a mission and a gray shirt and a red shirt. And then he, gets thrown into the game against Kansas State and he performed great. And so BYU had these kind of unsung heroes that, rose to the occasion and stepped up in a big way. And it helped them, get to an 11-2 season, which should be remembered as one of the great teams in BYU football history.
Now BYU fans will turn their attention at least somewhat to, obviously BYU football is always a big attention getter, but the BYU men's basketball team began Big 12 conference play today with a 20-point win over Arizona State. That's where you are right now. Richie Saunders, 30 points in a game where Jaeger Demon goes 2 of 8, 0 of 5 from 3. They win by 20 points. What did you learn today about the BYU basketball team?
The BYU, can still win a game without their star being, kind of off. And Jaeger was coming back from the knee contusion, and Richie was coming back from a concussion. He revealed that, he didn't get cleared until Christmas Eve and goes off for a career-high 30 points. And really impressive day for him. And Arizona State's a young basketball team, similar to BYU, though. But, Bobby Hurley noted the physicality of BYU showed up. And I think that's significant because – that's kind of a question I have about Jaeger and Cannon Catchings. How are they going to fare in the physicality of the Big 12 as they kind of settle into this? And they're going to jump into the deep end on Saturday with the Houston Cougars in Houston this weekend. I think that's going to be a really good barometer. But this is a good team, and they have a lot of guys that can, be the star on any given night. And even Richie Saunders pointed out in the post-game press conference that Danny Ainge told him when Richie was in the transfer portal and considering – coming back to BYU, he noted that Ainge told him, hey, you come to this team, it's as talented as any BYU team, and one night you might just be the guy that's grabbing rebounds, and the next night, you could be scoring a career high, and, there's 5-6 guys that could do that on this team, and you just got to, be patient every single night, and I think, a lot of guys are embracing that, and, Jaeger's got to get better, though, because, he had 5 turnovers a day, and if he's back to the guy that we saw at the beginning of the season, BYU's going to have a chance to, be a little bit more of a player in the Big 12 race than we think, because the Big 12 doesn't look to be as daunting as maybe I thought it would be. Kansas loses today and Texas Tech loses at home. And so this can be a wild race, and maybe BYU, if they can defend home court, that's got to be the biggest thing. Maybe they could be a little bit of a factor to, maybe be better even than 5th place that they were last year.
Nobody covers BYU sports better than Mitch Harper. You can read him at KSLSports.com. You can hear him on Cougar Sports Saturday on KSL News Radio. And, of course, checking in here all the time on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Mitch, thanks for coming on, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, guys. It's always a pleasure, and we'll talk again down the road.
All right, Mitch
Take
Harper.
Take care, man. See you next year.
See ya.
Oh, wow.
I get my dad jokes going.
We should have had a dad joke counter going on this afternoon. That was a good one, Sly. Well done. All right, there you go. That's a full recap of the Cougars. Again, like I said in our earlier segment, it was the year of the Cougar. BYU had a great year with athletics. Sly's in denial. Hey, maybe 2025 can be the year of the Ute. Why not?
Hey, we had a couple years. I ain't saying BYU definitely had a great year. I wouldn't say it was the year of the Cougar, because it's like you didn't really win much. You said a couple ski teams, cross-country teams got, championships.
National championships. You got the number 1 recruit in the country in basketball.
But you still didn't win anything with that. And for me, with that, it's just like, it's great what money can buy you.
Hey, you got that in there. Nice.
Right? But, the year of the Cougar, they didn't win a conference championship. There was a lot of hype. There was a lot of controversy.
They were close.
They were better
than 5 and 7.
That's for sure. They definitely were.
They got a lot of momentum.
They were good to talk about. I wouldn't say they
were very entertaining.
I wouldn't say it was the year of the Cougar. They were very good. They had good content this year.
Send your hate mail to Sylvester at, I don't even know, gmail.com. That's just a guess. I have no idea what your email is.
Hey, KSL.com.
All right. We're going going to switch gears. We're going to talk NFL next. The Blitz. After this, JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All the latest news and notes from the league and the locals in the NFL. JJ and Alex bring you the NFL Blitz on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The NFL is king. And the NFL Blitz is the king of this show. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hope you enjoyed the show today. We're not done yet. We've got the latest NFL news. Last night, Monday Night Football.
Oh, it was a good one.
That was a fun game to watch. The 49ers made it very interesting, and they were the better team in the first half, I thought. But the Lions rally. They have a big second half to beat the 49ers. They win 40-34. They're now 14-2 on the season, setting up that monster
Sunday Night Football,
matchup.
baby.
Sunday Night Football on KSL.
And watch us afterwards.
That's right. Join KSL Sports Live immediately following, and at 10:45 on Sundays. Sly will be there as well. We'll see who wins, Lions or the Vikings, for it all, for the NFC North title. And it's significant.
Number one seed.
It's significant because, yes, it is the number one seed. And the loser drops all the way to 5th and is on the road in a wild card game. That's insane.
But you'd be playing, what, Tampa Bay?
They'd be the 5th.
Yeah, Tampa
You're
Bay.
playing Tampa or Atlanta.
No, you're playing Tampa. Atlanta's going to lose.
You're probably right.
No, Atlanta's
I don't
not
like
gonna
that.
lose.
I think the Falcons are
But
bad.
if the Buccaneers, they got to play the Saints this weekend. If
The Bucs are going to win it.
Bucs are going to win.
The Bucs will be the team.
Mike Evans got to get another 1,000-yard season.
I think the Bucs are better than the Falcons.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any doubt about that, especially right now. The Bucs are hot right now. I will say that. Remember last year, what did the Bucs do to the Eagles?
Baker.
Yeah.
What school was that we played in state championships and they got the Baker Mayfield in their student section, the Baker Mayfield Club.
I don't remember.
Where did that come from?
I don't know.
But there's a high school student section, maybe Corner Canyon.
Yeah.
But they love them some Baker Mayfield. That was pretty awesome. I thought that was unique.
Hey, Baker's a great story. The
Yeah,
Bucs are. I think no one's talking about them because they've had their ups and downs. They had injury problems.
Playoffs.
Yeah.
But
But Mike Evans is back. Baker's slinging it, 5 touchdowns on Sunday. I know it was the Panthers, yada, yada, yada. But I think the Bucs are dangerous. And if they're hosting that game, just like they did against the Eagles last year, that could be a problem for the Vikings or the Lions, whoever loses that game. So the point being, it is imperative that the Lions take care of business at home, or it's imperative that the Vikings pull off the upset on the road, because getting that 1 seed is much, much better and much, much different than falling all the way down to number 5. There's no doubt about that. But what a way to end the season next Sunday night in Detroit. Brock Purdy, bruised elbow, likely out for the 49ers finale. I'm not really worried about the finale. What I want to ask you about and talk about is, do you think Brock Purdy's worth $55 million?
No.
So what are the 49ers going to do?
You pay him. He's not $55 million, though.
So they're going to give him the same money that Jordan Love got and Dak and
You could be. Brock Purdy doesn't seem like he's a greedy
get Trevor
guy.
Lawrence money. I'm throwing out all the guys that got that contract.
I know, and they didn't deserve it. Jordan Love, on the other hand, you see the future with
won a playoff
him.
game at least.
But Trevor Lawrence, I don't.
Trevor Lawrence has won playoff games too.
You can
Just
talk
not
about his
recently.
unfortunate coaching, stuff that he's been around, but you don't go pay a guy that much money for that. That's why teams like Jacksonville stay Jacksonville. And San Francisco, I don't think Brock Purdy's, he probably telling his agent, because honestly, I've told you this multiple times, it's about the fit. Brock Purdy fits that offense.
Yeah.
You don't go anywhere else, right? Because your career is going to die. You go to Arizona, you go to Cleveland, they'll pay you, but don't expect anything after that.
Well, I don't even think the 49ers should think about paying him. I think Brock Purdy's good.
I agree
He's
with
an
you.
incredible story when you consider he was Mr. Irrelevant, the last player taken in a draft.
I wouldn't even
Is
insult
Brock
him.
Purdy elite?
I wouldn't call him a game manager either. Like, don't call him that. I think he's a productive guy.
Okay.
But elite, Lamar Jackson,
But
Jalen Hurts,
That's
Patrick
my
Mahomes
point.
status.
That is my point.
Absolutely
He's not
not.
even in the Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence.
He's good. Don't get, 49er fans, let's not get it wrong. But he's not $55 million a year quarterback good.
But that's what they have to pay him if they want to keep him.
I mean, you got to figure something out.
He's up for that kind of a deal.
You got to figure something out. Hey, bro.
And they knew this was coming.
Hey, bro, we got to get this roster together. We can't do that to you. We can probably backload some stuff, give you a hefty signing bonus, yada, 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 but, like, we can't.
Do you let him walk and you just go draft Shedeur Sanders or something, move up in the draft?
You don't draft Shedeur Sanders. You don't do that. No.
What do you do if you're the 49ers? That's a tough decision because I don't think he's worth $55 million a year.
Yeah, you trade him because you have the ability to do that, right? You can trade him, get some value for him.
Well, he would be a free agent, right?
No, he's a restricted free agent.
Okay.
So you can sign him.
So you can technically still trade him.
You can still franchise him and still trade him, right? And so, because he's at the end, restricted free agent. You trade him, get some value for him. And
if you're going to sign him, you got to just keep him.
Don't be as bad as the Jazz with your rebuild.
I think the 49ers are in a tough spot here with their evaluation of him because I don't know how good he was this year.
I mean, he was on and off, but the whole roster was messed up.
Is he your franchise quarterback moving forward? Because if you're going to invest that amount of money, you can't do a Deshaun Watson deal where you give him that kind of money and they suck.
Here's my thing with Brock Purdy. He benefits from a very good roster and scheme. I have to admit that. Debo's been out. McCaffrey's been out. I think McCaffrey played, 2 games this year? Debo's been out. Trent Williams was out some of the year. A lot of his receivers and assets were gone for the majority of the year, and that's why they're not even making the playoffs. Right? Take that into account. Because when they were doing good, they get all the way to the Super Bowl, those guys played all the time. So is it Brock Purdy? Or is it not? As I said, he's good. He's a quarterback. You keep him there. I feel like you keep him there. But you don't pay him that much money. You got to talk with some agents, whatever it is. My mom does this when she walks into a car dealership. You got to be willing to walk.
Mm-hmm.
So you go into negotiation with Brock Purdy. Hey, we want to pay you $35 million a year. That's good money. If you want more than that, we can't do that. We live in California. Those taxes are way too high.
Yeah, they're brutal.
But be willing to walk. And know that you can get some value from him.
Boy, that's going to be one of the top storylines in the NFL offseason is what do the 49ers do with Brock Purdy? One of the top storylines this weekend, Saquon Barkley. He could break the NFL single-season rushing mark held by Eric Dickerson. He just needs the 101 yards. But the Eagles have locked up the NFC East Division. They're locked into the number 2 seed. There's no reason for him to go out there and risk injury. Should he play?
Yes.
Oof.
How often?
Nick Sirianni's undecided.
You seen all those guys. You seen all those guys on that list with 2,000 yards. They've been chasing Eric for 40 years, 35 years?
Yeah, 1984, 41 years.
Right? Everybody's been chasing him. I see so many guys get 2,000. Adrian Peterson, I wish he would have got it when he did it because he was so electric.
40 years ago exactly.
I know they got an extra game on the schedule that they haven't had before.
Right.
You let him do it because one, Saquon deserves it, I feel like. And you never know when you'll get another opportunity to get close to 2,000 yards. You do it. Because who are you playing? The Giants?
Yeah, his former team.
Who better to do that than against them at home?
Trust me, I think that Saquon wants to play and break the record and beat his old team. There's no doubt about that.
Nick,
I just don't know if it's a smart thing if you're trying to win a Super Bowl.
Don't be an idiot, Nick. Don't stop talking to Cleveland Brown fans and just freaking play him, get him the record, get him a couple of TDs and bounce. Get ready for playoffs.
Yeah, I think he's going to play, and I think he's going to break the record, and it's going to be pretty cool. So he certainly deserves it. Saquon Barkley, it's been the return of the running back this year. Him and Derrick Henry and a number of other guys have been phenomenal.
For sure.
Josh Jacobs in Green Bay. The running back is back in the NFL. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, it's best and worst. And the Pop-Tarts Bowl is at it again. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Wrapping up the hour with our picks for the best and worst moments on today's show. As JJ and Alex want to hear your best and worst of the day.
Best and worst brought to you by Doug Smith Dealerships, Dodge, Ram, Chevrolet, Subaru, Kia in Linden, and now Mitsubishi and American Fork. I think we'll be there Friday down at Doug Smith Mitsubishi in American Fork. Go get that $398 down, $398 a month deal going on right now. The ratings are out. Congratulations to the Pop-Tarts Bowl. 6.8 million people watched someone eat a giant Pop-Tart at the end of that game. Iowa State was the lucky team to be able to do it. But the Pop-Tarts Bowl came in second in the ratings because the Alamo Bowl brought in 8 million viewers. 8 million people watched BYU crush Colorado. That's a crazy number.
That's what you wanted. We talked about it. I was like, if BYU, there's a reason to play in this game. You get eyes, whatever you want to do. You want to enter the transfer portal. You want to improve your draft stock. You play in this game.
Yeah. And I want to applaud Colorado, Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter for playing in that game.
Oh, for sure.
They didn't have to.
They did not have
everyone
to.
would have understood if they walked
down,
away from it.
they could have left.
Unlike Cam Ward, Shedeur played the entire game.
Right.
I loved it. Give credit to them.
It's football.
Give credit to Deion Sanders, who gets a lot of hate for some reason. That dude has some integrity, and he encourages guys. We finish. He lived by what he said. Mm-hmm. Deion has a lot of talk, but he walks the walk. Give him credit. Yeah. And that Colorado team did what they said, and then they owned it after the game. Yeah. They didn't whine or complain. They gave credit to BYU 100%. They still are. So great situation for BYU to be able to show what they could do on that stage in front of 8 million people. Today's worst, 6 former Florida State players suing head coach Leonard Hamilton at Florida State over failed NIL payments. Sly, we've talked about this a lot of times. This is eventually coming. The promises are made, they're not kept. What happens? Here's the result.
My thing, I saw the headlines of this article. I haven't read the details, but how are you suing the head coach?
I don't know.
What does he have to do with your NIL deal?
Because he made the promise? I don't know.
Did he make the promise? Okay, he made the promise. I don't know. I mean,
that's the thing. Is it a handshake deal?
Yeah. And everybody contracts with these NIL.
They say he failed to make good on a promise to give them $250,000 each in name, image, and likeness compensation.
Here's my thing is, why is it name, image, and likeness? Because you put your name on the roster?
Unless you've signed a contract, you can't complain. And I think these kids are learning the hard way that this is business.
Business is business.
Right? You can say a lot of things. Hey, you have an employer say, hey, you could do this, this, and this if you get enough sales, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, the checks come back, and it's not how much they told you you're going to make. This happens in real life, too.
Right.
Sorry, guys. This is how the real world works.
Read your contract.
Get used to it. Sign it in paper. Get it done in paper. Hopefully they learn a lesson for this, but they're still going forward and suing. Wild world we live in the world of sports. All right. Utah Hockey Club is next, taking on the Edmonton Oilers. Connor McDavid in Edmonton. It starts right now on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.